Donald Trump entered the White House with three major goals for his presidency: to push for large tax cuts that mostly benefited the wealthiest Americans, to redesign the Oval Office according to his taste, and to expand his own personal influence and wealth. While the first two goals were achieved, the third one has continued to spark controversies. Recently, a new issue has emerged, this time connected to Melania Trump. We'll discuss what happened in detail, but before that, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you enjoy our work. It really helps us out. Now, let's get into how recent developments have created tension for both Donald and Melania Trump.
So this is the most corrupt White House in the history of the universe. Sometimes you see the corruption in reverse. Sometimes you see it in real time. Sometimes you see the corruption before it happens. And let me explain to you a corruption story that is in process. So you know the Department of Defense is going to be making tons of drones and buying a lot of drones in the coming decade. We've seen how lethal and effective they are in warfare in Ukraine. And so it won't shock you to find out that the Trump family has decided to get into the business of building drones. Specifically, Donald Trump Jr. just went on the advisory board of a very small drone company called Unusual Machines, based out of Florida. And as soon as he went on the board, guess what happened? The stock price of this company doubled, like overnight. Because, you know, in this environment, in this White House, everybody knows when the fix is about to be in. And so as the Department of Defense starts to ramp up the amount of money that it's going to be spending on drones, don't be shocked or surprised when a very small drone manufacturer out of Florida called Unusual Machines starts to win bids. This is what's going on in this administration. They're just scooping up federal resources and federal contracts and delivering them to their friends, to their political allies, and often just to their family members. Sometimes you don't learn about it until after it's happened, but sometimes you see it coming. And I'm just telling you, we all see this one coming. Unusual Machines, a small company out of Florida, I think is pretty soon going to be in the big business of federal drone contracts.
Critics argue that Donald Trump and his family have always been focused on personal gain rather than public service. From the beginning, many viewed his campaign as more of a publicity effort than a genuine political mission. This strategy has certainly benefited him and his family financially. Now, with fewer connections like Elon Musk for business partnerships, reports suggest opportunities are being directed toward Trump's children, Eric, Don Jr., and Ivanka, whether through manufacturing projects, new business ventures, or international deals.
Hold on, let me get him on the phone.
Josh?
Tell him I loved his op-ed. And Greg mentioned a staggering level of corruption. And I just got a note that the staggering level of corruption from last night's meme coin dinner.
That's what you're focusing on, the meme coin.
No, 40% of Donald Trump's wealth has been accumulated since he became president because of two crypto coins. The New York Times did interviews with foreign buyers of this cryptocurrency who came over here to have dinner with him. A guy from South Korea.
This is not even part of the segment.
So what?
You're talking about a meme coin.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about who's corrupt and who is profiting off the American office.
Did he try to cover that up? I don't think so.
Yeah, Caroline Levitt said
you're defending an administration that covered up a dying leader, and you're sitting here going, but meme coin, meme coin.
I'm saying billions.
All right, let's give Paul a chance to clean it up real quick. Paul, final thoughts.
Clean on my side of the street.
All right, all I can say is
one of the most recent controversies involves cryptocurrency. Despite significant hype around Trump, S-owned digital coin, marketed as Trump token, its value has dropped from nearly $75 per token at launch to just around $8 today. Similarly, Melania Trump S token has lost over 98% of its value since January and now trades at only a fraction of its original price. Although the tokens lost value, investigations revealed that their creators reportedly earned close to $100 million in trading fees during the launch frenzy. This has raised questions in Washington, with some lawmakers calling for an ethics review of the president's involvement in digital assets. The decline of these coins has not only caused financial losses for supporters, but also created embarrassment for the former First Lady, whose name was closely tied to one of these projects. Critics argue that such ventures exploit public trust without generating real economic value.
President Trump's problems in the Jeffrey Epstein case continue. This week, a judge rebuked what looked like a ploy by the Trump administration to take some of the documents to court when they could release most of them, denying that request, calling it a distraction. Key officials are also going under oath this week, including the Trump attorney general who was in charge when Epstein died, and there were so many questions about the missing videos and secrecy. That's Attorney General Barr. Now, we have been following this story, breaking down not only the corruption, but how far back it goes. This is a new timeline that we debuted this week, and I want to show you part of this special report. Local police in Palm Beach, Florida, began a probe into Epstein, investigating reports of abusing victims as young as 14. The local case led to Epstein's indictment for a single count of soliciting prostitution. Epstein reached a deal with the Bush administration's federal prosecutors to take that local Florida conviction for soliciting prostitution with an adult and a minor. Epstein got a lenient, short prison sentence and an unusual agreement that the Bush DOJ would not prosecute Epstein further, or 4 of his co-conspirators, or any others. Another 9 years went by, and then the Miami Herald reported an Epstein expose on the allegations of his conduct and that Bush-era prosecutor who cut the sweetheart deal. That investigative report gained traction, partly because of a tie to Trump, who promoted the very prosecutor, Alex Acosta, to his cabinet, leading to a fairly swift federal indictment of Epstein on far more serious sex trafficking charges. Epstein was found dead in his cell. The situation was suspicious. Officials there broke several protocols. Epstein was a high-profile detainee. He'd been placed on suicide watch, which was then quickly lifted. Guards failed to do required inspections the very night of his death. And a lot of questions were hanging over all of this. Trump Attorney General Barr even admitting the prison made mistakes then, but claiming that he personally reviewed prison video which showed no one entering the cell. And with Epstein dead, prosecutors turned to a co-conspirator who might have benefited from that original Florida case being shut down, what I told you about. They went ahead and indicted Ghislaine Maxwell for helping Epstein's sex trafficking. It was a problem for Trump, given that he promoted the original prosecutor, that he oversaw the DOJ, which failed to answer questions or have transparency about whatever happened in that prison cell. Bondi went from saying there was a client list to there wasn't. She was lying then or lying now. The DOJ memo then said there was no other Epstein info that was going to be released, which ignited that firestorm of criticism we all lived through. The Trump administration's contradicting claims drew more heat on its secrecy. The DOJ then sent this former Trump criminal defense attorney to interview Maxwell in prison and then transferred her to a better prison, an apparent reward for the one person doing any time for Epstein's indicted federal crimes. This is a damning account of President Trump's approach to this case in government. Now, this is a serious governing problem for President Trump and the DOJ and obviously the impacted victims. Even if we learn nothing else about this, it's an open scandal for this administration. And then there are the glaring and inconvenient facts that go back even further before Trump was in government. Legally, these social links alone are not evidence of a crime. They are evidence of a conflict of interest, the kind of link that requires a judge or prosecutor to recuse from a case. But Trump has been doing the opposite, commenting and intervening. His DOJ's actions on Epstein repeatedly putting secrecy over facts. And a lot of a cover-up over the victims who, as you see in that fuller timeline, were cut out of the initial deal struck by the prosecutor, later promoted and then ousted by the Trump administration. And so many of these victims say they feel cut out again as Maxwell gets special treatment.
These developments show why ongoing scrutiny of financial dealings tied to political figures is so important. As always, we'll continue following these stories and bringing you the latest updates. If you want to support this work, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a blue heart in the comments if you watched until the end.